morning sun rose over New Haven Colony like it had for the past 15 years. Jake Morrison stood on his office balcony, watching the farmers head out to their fields. The smell of fresh bread came from the bakery below, mixing with the sweet scent of blooming apple trees that lined the main street. Jake smiled as he watched Danny Walsh load his truck with vegetables for the morning market. The young farmer waved up at him before driving toward the town center. Life on New Haven was simple and good. 50,000 people had made this world their home, turning empty land into thriving farms and busy towns. Another peaceful day, Jake said to himself as he walked back into his office. His assistant, Mary Johnson, was already sorting through the morning reports. Crop yields were up, the new school construction was ahead of schedule, and 3 more families had applied to move to the colony. The Harvest Festival Committee wants to meet with you today, Mary said, handing him a cup of coffee. They need approval for the fireworks display. Jake nodded. The Harvest Festival was the biggest event of the year. People came from other colonies to celebrate with them. It showed everyone that humans could build something beautiful and peaceful among the stars. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Vextar studied the reports about human colonies. The tall, gray-skinned Zephyrian leader sat in his command chair, his forearms working at different control panels. His red eyes glowed with anger as he read about human expansion. They spread like weeds, he told his officers. 47 colonies in just 20 years. They take the best planets and act like they own the galaxy. Commander Thexol, his second-in-command, pointed to a holographic map. Our scouts report their defenses are weak. Most colonies have only basic patrol ships, no real weapons. Vextar's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among his people. Soft creatures. They spend their time growing food and building schools instead of preparing for war. They think the galaxy is a safe place. What are your orders, Admiral? Another officer asked. We teach them the truth about space, Vextar said. Pick a target, something small and far from their main worlds. We show the galaxy what happens to species that expand without permission. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 23 worlds in the past 50 years. They were strong, advanced, and had no patience for weakness. Every species they met either submitted or died. Humans would learn this lesson soon. Back on New Haven, Dr. Lisa Carter worked late in her laboratory. The colony's chief scientist had been tracking unusual energy readings for the past 3 days. The readings came from the edge of their solar system, but they were faint and strange. Probably just solar flares, she told her assistant, Peter Davis. The star has been more active lately. Peter looked at the data on his screen. The patterns are weird, though. Almost like ship engines, but different from anything in our databases. Lisa shook her head. No one comes out here except traders, and we wouldn't know if ships were approaching. The readings are just cosmic background noise. She was wrong. 3 Zephyrian scout ships hung in the darkness beyond the system's outer planets. Their advanced stealth systems made them invisible to human sensors. For 2 weeks they had been watching and learning. The scouts recorded everything. They counted the human population, mapped the colony's defenses, and listened to human communications. What they heard made them laugh. Humans talked about farming, children's sports games, and trade deals. They saw no signs of military preparation or warrior spirit. These creatures are even weaker than we thought, reported Scout Commander Zektar to Admiral Vextar. They have 6 patrol ships total. Their weapons are designed for moving asteroids, not fighting. Their people spend time in gardens and libraries. Perfect, Vextar replied. Weak targets make the best examples. How long until the main fleet arrives? 2 days, Admiral. The humans suspect nothing. That evening, Danny Walsh finished his work and sat on his porch with his wife, Susan. Their 2 children played in the yard while they watched the sunset. The sky was clear and beautiful, filled with the light of distant stars. Look at that, Susan said, pointing upward. Those stars seem brighter tonight. Danny looked up and frowned. Those aren't stars. They're moving. He stood up and shaded his eyes. Looks like lights in space. Maybe ships? Could be traders coming early for the festival, Susan suggested. Or maybe a research vessel. Danny wasn't sure. The lights seemed too bright and too organized to be normal traffic. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't explain what. I'll call Jake in the morning, he decided. He'll know what's going on. Inside the colony's communication center, operator Mike Stevens received dozens of routine messages from other human worlds. Trade reports, family letters, and news updates flowed through the quantum relay system. Everything seemed normal. One message came from Earth's Colonial Defense Council. It was marked as routine, but it asked for detailed reports about any unusual activities or unknown ships in their area. Mike made a note to ask Administrator Morrison about it in the morning. The message was not routine. Earth's intelligence services had detected strange energy signatures moving through space toward the outer colonies. They were trying to track the sources, but their information was incomplete and confusing. On Earth, General Marcus Stone read the reports in his underground office. The decorated soldier had fought in 3 different conflicts, but he had spent the last 10 years in a job that officially didn't exist. His real work involved preparing for threats that the public didn't know about. "Something's moving out there," he told his aide, Captain Angela White. "Our deep space sensors are picking up organized groups heading toward colony space." "Orders, sir?" Angela asked. "Alert status yellow for all outer colonies. Tell them to watch their sensors and report anything unusual. Don't alarm the civilians yet." Marcus hoped he was wrong. He hoped the readings were just space phenomena or lost ships. But 30 years of military experience told him otherwise. Someone was coming, and they probably weren't friendly. Back on New Haven, Jake Morrison went to bed without knowing that enemy ships were already in his solar system. He didn't know that his peaceful colony had been chosen as a target. He didn't know that in 2 days everything would change forever. The last thing he saw before sleep was the photo on his nightstand. It showed the groundbreaking ceremony 15 years ago, when the first colonists had arrived to build their new home. Everyone in the picture was smiling, full of hope for the future. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, the galaxy would show New Haven what it really thought about human dreams of peace. The alarm started screaming at 6 in the morning. Jake Morrison woke up fast, his heart pounding. The sound meant only one thing: incoming ships detected. He grabbed his clothes and ran to the colony command center. "What's happening?" he asked Mary Johnson, who was already at her station. 50 ships just appeared at the system edge, she said, her voice shaking. "Big ones. Military class. They're not responding to our communications." Jake felt cold fear in his stomach. New Haven had never seen military ships before. Their small patrol craft were already moving toward the unknown fleet, but they looked like toys compared to the massive vessels on the screen. "Keep trying to contact them," Jake ordered, "and send emergency signals to Earth and the nearest colonies. Tell them we need help." On the main screen, the alien fleet grew larger as it moved toward New Haven. The ships were dark and angular, covered with weapon ports that glowed with hostile energy. Jake had never seen anything so frightening. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human world grow larger. The planet looked green and peaceful, with white clouds and blue oceans. It disgusted him. Weak creatures always picked the prettiest worlds. "Human ships approaching," reported his weapons officer. 6 small vessels. "Patrol class. Destroy them," Vextar ordered without hesitation. The Zephyrian weapons fired once. Bright energy beams reached across space and turned the human patrol ships into expanding clouds of gas and metal. 6 crews died in seconds, vaporized before they could even send a distress signal. On New Haven, people watched their defenders die on live video feeds. Screams filled the command center. Children started crying in the streets. Everyone understood now. These aliens had not come to talk. "This is Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire," came a voice over all communication channels. The translation software made his words sound cold and mechanical. "You have 1 hour to evacuate this world. After that, we will demonstrate what happens to species that expand without permission." Jake's hands shook as he activated the colony emergency system. Sirens wailed across every town and farm. "All civilians to evacuation sites immediately," he announced. "This is not a drill. Move to the shelters or the spaceport. Leave everything behind." The next hour was chaos. Families ran through the streets carrying children and emergency bags. Ground vehicles crashed into each other as people panicked. The small spaceport filled with desperate crowds trying to get onto cargo ships and passenger shuttles. Dr. Lisa Carter worked frantically to save her research data. She had spent 10 years studying the planet's unique ecosystem. The information could help other colonies. "Just 5 more minutes," she told Peter Davis as he urged her to leave. "We don't have 5 minutes," Peter said, grabbing her arm. "The ships are powering weapons. We have to go now." Danny Walsh threw his children into his truck and drove toward the spaceport. His wife Susan held baby clothes and family photos, the only things she could grab before they ran. "It'll be okay," he told his kids, but he didn't believe it himself. The roads were jammed with vehicles. People abandoned cars and ran on foot when traffic stopped moving. Security Chief Ryan Bell tried to organize the evacuation, but there were too many people and not enough ships. "We can fit maybe 5,000 people on all our transport ships," he told Jake over the radio. "That leaves 45,000 with nowhere to go." Jake felt sick. He was supposed to protect these people, but he was helpless. The underground shelters might save some lives, but not for long. The aliens would find them eventually. The hour passed like a nightmare. Some families made it to ships and escaped into space. Others reached the underground bunkers built for asteroid strikes and natural disasters. Most people were still running when the deadline arrived. Admiral Vextar checked his timepiece. 1 hour has passed. Begin the demonstration. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire. 50 warships unleashed their weapons on the helpless planet below. Energy beams and missile strikes turned cities into burning craters. The main spaceport exploded in a fireball that could be seen from orbit. Farms became fields of glass. Rivers boiled away into steam. Danny Walsh was driving toward Shelter Complex 7 when the ground exploded around him. His truck flipped over and caught fire. He crawled out, bleeding from cuts, and saw Susan trapped in the wreckage. He pulled her free, but she wasn't breathing. His children were already dead. He held his wife's body and screamed at the burning sky. Above him, alien ships continued their attack without mercy. Dr. Carter died trying to save her laboratory. A direct hit turned the science complex into a smoking hole. Her research about the planet's life forms was lost forever, along with 15 years of work. The passenger ship Morning Star lifted off with 300 refugees just as the spaceport was hit. Captain Bill Parker pushed his engines beyond safety limits, trying to reach escape velocity before the aliens noticed them. They almost made it. A Zephyrian interceptor caught them at the edge of the atmosphere. The alien pilot fired once, and the Morning Star became a falling star that lit up the night sky. Everyone aboard died, including 47 children who had been heading to safety. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it stopped, New Haven was a dead world. The green fields were black ash. The cities were empty ruins. The blue oceans were filled with debris and smoke. Less than 3,000 people survived in the deepest underground shelters. They huddled in darkness, listening to the ceiling creak and wondering if the aliens would find them too. Admiral Vextar recorded the destruction and broadcast it across the galaxy. "This is the fate of all species that challenge Zephyrian authority," his message said. "Humans have been warned. Submit or share this world's destiny." He left a few ships to strip valuable resources from the planet. The rest of his fleet moved on to their next target. To him, New Haven had been just a training exercise, but the Admiral made one mistake. Hidden monitoring stations throughout the system had recorded every second of the attack. Quantum communication relays had sent the footage to Earth in real time. Every human world had watched New Haven die. In the underground shelters, the survivors waited for rescue that might never come. They had no food for more than a few days. They had no weapons to fight back. They had nothing left except rage and the hope that someone would remember them. Above them, automated cameras continued broadcasting the destruction. The images traveled faster than light toward Earth, carrying news that would change everything. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when someone killed human children. The footage arrived at Earth during a routine session of the Human Colonial Council. Ambassador Grace Williams was discussing trade agreements when her aide, Robert Clark, burst into the chamber with a tablet in his hands. "Ma'am, you need to see this immediately," he whispered, his face white with shock. Grace looked at the screen and watched her people die. She saw children's transport ships exploding in space. She saw families running through burning streets. She saw 50,000 innocent people murdered for the crime of existing. The chamber fell silent as the video played on the main screen. Council members watched cities turn to ash and refugees falling from the sky in burning ships. Some delegates started crying. Others sat frozen in horror. Grace slowly removed the small peace symbol pin from her jacket. She had worn it every day for 20 years, believing that diplomacy could solve any problem. She placed it carefully on her desk and stood up. "Emergency session," she announced, her voice steady and cold. "Clear the chamber of all non-essential personnel. Activate the War Powers Protocol." Across Earth, the reaction was swift and terrible. News of New Haven spread through human space in minutes. On Luna Base, construction worker Ben Price put down his tools and walked to a hidden panel in the mining complex. His real job was about to begin. The panel opened to reveal military controls that had been waiting for 15 years. Ben wasn't a construction worker. He was Dr. Benjamin Price, weapons engineer and keeper of humanity's deadliest secrets. He pressed a series of buttons and Project Harbinger came online. Around the solar system, similar transformations happened everywhere. Mining stations revealed themselves as weapons platforms. Cargo ships dropped their fake hulls and showed the warships underneath. Research centers opened their hidden military laboratories. On Mars, the prestigious Diplomatic Academy canceled all classes. Director Helen Torres walked into the main lecture hall, where 500 students waited for their usual lessons about peaceful contact with alien species. "Your real education begins now," she told them. "Everything you've learned here was a cover story. This is the Mars War College, and you are the finest military minds humanity has ever produced. Report to your combat assignments immediately." The students didn't seem surprised. They had always known something was different about their school. The diplomatic simulations had been too realistic. Their teachers had known too much about military tactics. They stood up and saluted as their instructors revealed their true ranks. Admiral Torres was not a civilian educator. She was the commander of the First Strike Fleet, 200 warships that had been disguised as under construction for decades. The ships were already fully armed and ready for battle. General Marcus Stone arrived at his new headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility had been built in secret over 20 years, hidden inside an old military base that everyone thought was abandoned. Now it became the nerve center for humanity's response. "Bring me Captain Kevin Nash," he ordered his staff, "and activate all Ghost Squadron assets." Captain Nash had been flying cargo runs between colonies for 5 years. His ship looked like a simple freight hauler, but it carried weapons that could destroy entire fleets. He was one of 50 pilots whose existence had been officially denied by human governments. "Sir, it's time?" Nash asked when he arrived at the general's office. "Past time," Marcus replied. "The Zephyrians wanted to see what humans really are. Show them." The truth spread through human space like wildfire. The peaceful farmers and merchants were real, but they had coexisted with the most sophisticated military force the galaxy had ever seen. Every human colony had hidden defenses. Every trade ship carried concealed weapons. Every diplomat was also a spy. For 30 years, humanity had been preparing for this day. They had studied every alien species they met, learned their weaknesses, and mapped their territories. The friendly curiosity that aliens found so charming had actually been intelligence gathering on an unprecedented scale. Ambassador Williams addressed the emergency session of the Colonial Council. Behind her, screens showed the destruction of New Haven next to images of hidden weapons and secret fleets. "We tried to be peaceful," she said to the assembled delegates. "We believed that civilized beings could share the galaxy without violence. We were wrong." She touched a control and new images appeared. Massive shipyards hidden inside asteroids. Weapons laboratories disguised as research stations. Training facilities that had prepared soldiers for every possible form of warfare. "The aliens call us soft," Williams continued. "They think we're weak because we build gardens and schools. They don't understand that our greatest strength was never our technology. It was our restraint." On Luna Base, Dr. Price activated weapon systems that had been disguised as mining equipment for 15 years. Massive energy cannons rose from inside fake ore processing plants. Missile launchers emerged from what had appeared to be storage facilities. "Target acquired," he reported to General Stone. "Zephyrian fleet position confirmed. All Harbinger weapons ready to fire." "Not yet," Marcus replied. "Let them think they're safe for a little longer." The general was planning something that would terrify the galaxy. The Zephyrians had killed children and broadcast the footage as a warning. They would learn that humans remembered everything and forgave nothing. Captain Nash launched from his secret base on Europa, along with 49 other Ghost Squadron pilots. Their ships could phase in and out of normal space using technology that shouldn't have existed. They could strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Admiral Torres led the First Strike Fleet out of hiding. The 200 warships had been scattered throughout the outer solar system, pretending to be under construction. Now they formed up into battle groups that could destroy entire star systems. On Earth, President Linda Hayes appeared on every communication channel in human space. She was supposed to be a civilian leader, But her speech revealed the truth about humanity's nature. "My fellow humans," she began, "for 30 years we have walked softly among the stars. We have shown kindness to every species we met. We have shared our knowledge and our friendship freely. Today we learned what the galaxy thinks of kindness." Behind her, military displays showed the true extent of human preparation. Hidden fleets, secret weapons, and intelligence networks that spanned dozens of worlds. "The Zephyrian Empire believes they have demonstrated their power," she continued. "They are wrong. They have awakened something that was sleeping, something that we kept restrained because we hoped it would never be needed." Dr. Price completed the activation of Earth's hidden defenses. The planet was surrounded by weapons platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites for decades. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a fleet. "Beast Protocol is now active," he reported to General Stone. "All systems online, awaiting orders." General Stone looked at the tactical displays surrounding his command center. Human forces were moving into position throughout the galaxy. The peaceful traders and farmers were revealing their true nature. The sleeping giant was finally awake. "They wanted to see the beast," he said to his assembled commanders. "They killed our children to make a point. Now they will learn why humans spread across the stars with such confidence." He pressed a single button, and orders went out to every human military unit in the galaxy. "Operation Reckoning is authorized. Show them what we really are." The first strike came 48 hours after New Haven died. Admiral Krathos was reviewing patrol reports from his fortress world when his communications officer started screaming. "Sir, Outpost 17 just vanished," the officer reported, staring at his instruments in confusion. "All contact lost. No explosion detected, no debris field. It's just gone." Krathos frowned. Outpost 17 was a massive military station with 10,000 Zephyrian soldiers. Stations that size didn't just disappear. "Check your sensors," he ordered. "Already did, sir. Sensors confirm the station is no longer there. Space is empty where it used to be." Before Krathos could respond, more reports flooded in. "Outpost 12, gone. The mining facility at Vex Prime, vanished. The weapons depot near Zephyr Station, empty space. 12 major military installations disappeared in the same hour, leaving no trace they had ever existed." Captain Kevin Nash smiled as he watched the last target dissolve into nothing. His ship, the Shadowrunner, used technology that most humans didn't even know existed. The quantum displacement cannons didn't destroy targets. They moved them somewhere else entirely. "Target eliminated," he reported to Ghost Squadron Command, moving to next objective. Around him, 49 other ships performed the same impossible task. They phased in and out of normal space, struck without warning, and disappeared before enemy sensors could track them. The Zephyrians had no defense against weapons that existed outside normal reality. Admiral Torres led the first strike fleet toward the Zephyrian home system. Her ships moved faster than anything the aliens had ever seen, using drive systems that bent space around them. The 200 warships looked nothing like the peaceful cargo vessels that had visited alien ports for decades. "Enemy fleet detected," reported Captain Carl Davis from the lead destroyer. 50 Zephyrian warships moving to intercept. "Let them come," Torres replied. "Time to test our new toys." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire first, launching massive energy beams that had destroyed countless alien worlds. The weapons struck the human ships and did nothing. Advanced shield technology absorbed the energy and fed it back into the human weapon systems. "Our turn," Torres said calmly. "Fire." The human fleet unleashed weapons that made Zephyrian technology look primitive. Plasma cannons that burned hotter than stars. Missile systems that could track targets across light years. Energy weapons that could punch through any known armor. In 30 seconds, the 50 Zephyrian ships became expanding clouds of gas and metal. Not one human vessel took damage. On Earth, Dr. Benjamin Price activated the Biological Warfare Division. He wasn't trying to create deadly diseases, his weapons were much more subtle. Human scientists had spent decades studying alien ecosystems, learning how everything connected. "Target the Zephyrian agricultural worlds first," he told his team. "Disrupt their food supply by turning their own biology against them." Invisible robots spread through Zephyrian space, too small to detect but programmed with devastating precision. They landed on farming worlds and began their work. Zephyrian crops started dying of new diseases. Their domesticated animals became hostile and uncontrollable. Even their symbiotic bacteria, which helped their immune systems, began attacking their hosts. Within days, entire planets became uninhabitable. The Zephyrians couldn't understand what was happening. Their own world was turning against them. Admiral Vextar, the one who had ordered the attack on New Haven, watched his empire crumble from his command ship. Half his fleet had vanished without explanation. His homeworlds were reporting impossible disasters. Enemy ships appeared from nowhere, struck without warning, and disappeared before his forces could respond. "How is this possible?" he demanded from his science officer. "Humans are supposed to be weak. They have no advanced technology." "Apparently we were wrong, sir," the officer replied nervously. "Our intelligence reports were completely inaccurate. Human military capabilities far exceed our own." On Luna Base, Dr. Price monitored the results of Operation Reckoning. The quantum displacement weapons had removed every major Zephyrian military installation within 100 light years. The biological weapons were turning their planets into hostile environments. The direct military strikes were eliminating their fleets faster than they could be replaced. Phase 2 is ready for implementation, he reported to General Stone. "We can begin targeting their civilian infrastructure." "Negative," the general replied. "We're not them. Military targets only, but make sure they understand the difference." Ambassador Grace Williams stood before the Galactic Council, which had called an emergency session to discuss the human response. Representatives from dozens of species watched her with fear and confusion. "You told us humans were peaceful," accused the Drenari delegate. "You said your people were farmers and traders." "We are farmers and traders," Grace replied calmly. "We're also the most dangerous species in the galaxy when you threaten our children. We tried to be peaceful." The Zephyrians decided that was weakness. She activated a holographic display that showed the true extent of human military power. Hidden shipyards that could build entire fleets in weeks. Weapons technology that was centuries ahead of anything else in the galaxy. Intelligence networks that had mapped every alien world. "For 30 years we gathered information about every species we met," she continued. "We learned your weaknesses, your fears, your military capabilities. We did this while smiling and offering friendship because we hoped we would never need to use what we learned." The alien delegates sat in shocked silence. The friendly humans they had known for decades were revealing themselves as something far more dangerous. "The Zephyrians wanted to make an example of us," Grace said. "They succeeded. We are now the example of what happens when you attack human civilians." Captain Nash received new orders from Ghost Squadron Command. "Proceed to Zephyr Prime. Demonstrate quantum displacement on their orbital defense platforms." Nash smiled coldly. Zephyr Prime was the Zephyrian homeworld, protected by the most advanced defenses in their empire. It was supposed to be impregnable. The aliens were about to learn that nothing was impregnable to humans who had stopped pretending to be peaceful. His ship phased into normal space directly above the planet. The massive orbital defense platforms immediately detected him and opened fire. Energy beams that could destroy battleships struck his vessel and passed harmlessly through it. "Ghost Squadron to Zephyr Prime," Nash broadcast on all frequencies. "Your defenses are impressive. Watch them disappear." He fired the quantum displacement cannons once. Every orbital platform, every defense satellite, every weapon emplacement around the planet vanished instantly. Zephyr Prime, the most protected world in Zephyrian space, was suddenly defenseless. Nash didn't attack the planet itself. He simply sent one more message. "Humans remember New Haven. We remember the children you killed. Think about that." Then he phased out of normal space and disappeared, leaving the Zephyrian homeworld naked and vulnerable. Admiral Torres received word that the Zephyrian government was requesting negotiations. "They want to discuss terms," her communications officer reported. "There are no terms," Torres replied. "There is only surrender. Tell them they have 24 hours to lay down all weapons and submit to human authority. If they refuse, we finish what they started." Dr. Price began Phase 3 of the operation. The Zephyrian Empire would cease to exist, but its people would live, under human supervision. It was more mercy than they had shown New Haven. The galaxy watched in terror as humanity revealed its true nature. The peaceful farmers and merchants were still there, but now everyone could see the predators that had been hiding among them. The humans had been wolves pretending to be sheep, and the sheep had foolishly awakened them. 6 months after New Haven burned, Admiral Vexitar sat in a comfortable room on Earth. staring out the window at a garden where human children played. The same children whose species he had tried to eliminate now ran past his window every day, laughing and playing games. The room was not a prison cell, though it might as well have been. Human psychologists visited him daily, studying how alien military minds worked. They were polite and professional, but Vextar knew he would never leave this place. "Tell me about the decision to attack New Haven," Dr. Patricia Lee asked during their morning session. "What made you choose that particular colony?" Vextar looked at her with his red eyes. "It was weak, far from your main worlds. We thought you would abandon it rather than fight." "And now?" Dr. Lee asked, making notes on her tablet. "Now I understand that humans have no weak colonies," Vextar replied. "Every farm is a fortress. Every farmer is a soldier. Every child is protected by weapons we cannot comprehend." The Zephyrian Empire no longer existed. Their homeworld had become a nature preserve where the surviving population lived in small communities, forbidden from developing any technology more advanced than basic farming tools. They grew food, raised families, and lived quiet lives under constant human observation. Some had protested this treatment, calling it cruel and unusual. Ambassador Grace Williams had visited them personally to explain the alternative. "You killed 50,000 innocent people to make a point," she had told the Zephyrian Council. "We could have killed 50 billion to make ours. Instead, we're giving you the same peaceful life you tried to deny our children. Consider it a gift." The galaxy's power structure had shifted completely. The Galactic Council now met on Unity Station, a massive human-built facility that orbited Earth. Grace Williams served as the council president, though everyone knew she was really the galaxy's leader. Species that had been neutral during the conflict now desperately sought human protection. Former enemies offered tribute and begged for trading rights. The humans accepted some requests and ignored others, making it clear that friendship was a privilege that had to be earned. General Marcus Stone established the new rules from his headquarters, on Mars. Any species that attacked human civilians would face the same fate as the Zephyrians: technological extinction. Their societies would be reduced to pre-industrial levels and kept under permanent observation. "We're not conquerors," he explained to the Galactic Defense Committee. "We're gardeners. Violent civilizations are weeds that must be removed before they spread." Captain Kevin Nash became the first human to be named Galactic Marshal. His Ghost Squadron ships patrolled former trouble zones, their mere presence enough to prevent conflicts. Pirates and raiders who had terrorized shipping lanes for decades simply disappeared when Nash arrived. The Marshal carried a simple message to every world he visited: "Humans keep the peace now. Anyone who breaks it will deal with us." Most aliens found this terrifying. A few found it reassuring. None of them argued. Dr. Benjamin Price, now Director of Galactic Security, monitored hundreds of alien worlds from his command center beneath Luna's surface. His computers tracked every military vessel, every weapons program, and every hostile communication broadcast across known space. "We have the Krallian Empire developing new battle cruisers," reported his assistant, Colonel Jennifer Adams. "Intelligence suggests they're planning raids on the outer colonies." "Send Captain Nash," Price replied without looking up from his screens. "Have him make the ships disappear. Leave one intact so they can study the scorch marks and understand what happened to the others." The message would be clear: humans knew everything and forgave nothing. The ruins of New Haven had been rebuilt as New Haven Memorial Colony. Beings from dozens of species came to visit the monument at the colony's center. It was a simple black stone with the names of 47,000 humans who had died in the original attack. Below the names, an inscription appeared in every known language. Here died innocent people who wanted only to farm and raise their children in peace. Their deaths awakened something that cannot be put back to sleep. Remember, humanity's greatest strength was never our technology or our numbers. It was our restraint. When that restraint is broken, mercy becomes a privilege that must be earned. Danny Walsh's name was on that stone, along with his wife Susan and their 2 children. Every day, aliens came to read those names and understand what their deaths had cost the galaxy. The new colony thrived under its diverse population. Humans still farmed the land and raised families, but now they did so alongside reformed Zephyrians, grateful Drenari refugees, and members of 20 other species who had learned to live in peace. Colony Administrator Rachel Green, who had replaced Jake Morrison, often stood before the memorial at sunset. She had been a military officer before taking the civilian job, one of thousands of soldiers who had spent their careers pretending to be something else. "The old galaxy is gone," she would tell visitors who asked about the memorial. "We killed it the day we decided that murdering children was acceptable. What we have now is better, but it cost us our innocence." President Linda Hayes addressed the annual gathering of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 200 species listened as she outlined humanity's vision for the future. "Peace is not the absence of conflict," she said. "Peace is the presence of justice. For too long, the strong preyed on the weak while the civilized species looked away. That ends now." Behind her, displays showed the current state of galactic civilization. Piracy was down 97%. Wars between species had become extinct. Trade flowed freely under human protection. The galaxy was more prosperous and peaceful than it had ever been. "Some of you call us tyrants," Hayes continued. "You're welcome to that opinion. But ask yourselves this. When was the last time your children were afraid to sleep because of raiders in the night? When did you last worry that your peaceful colony might be destroyed to make a political point?" The alien delegates had no answer. Under human rule, such fears had become relics of the past. Dr. Price received his daily intelligence briefing from agents scattered across the galaxy. Every alien government, every military organization, every terrorist group was under constant surveillance. Humans knew about threats before the aliens who posed them did. "The Hegemony Council is discussing reunification," reported Agent Mike Torres from the Outer Rim. "They think enough time has passed that humans might have forgotten their rebellion." "Remind them that humans forget nothing," Price replied. "Send them footage of what happened to the Zephyrian fleet. Tell them it's a history lesson." The galaxy had learned to live with this new reality. Humans maintained the peace through absolute supremacy, but they were not cruel masters. Species that behaved themselves were left alone to govern their own affairs. Those that caused trouble simply ceased to exist as military powers. Children on 1,000 worlds grew up in safety because monsters in the darkness knew that humans were watching. The price of peace was eternal vigilance, and humans had proven they were willing to pay it. As night fell over Unity Station, Grace Williams stood in her office, looking out at the stars. Somewhere among those lights, the descendants of New Haven survivors were living quiet lives on their memorial world. Their ancestors' sacrifice had changed everything. The galaxy was peaceful now, but it was a peace built on fear and respect rather than trust and goodwill. Humans had become the monsters that other monsters feared. The guardians who stood watch while civilized beings slept safely. They had not chosen this role, but they would never abandon it. The beasts were awake now, and they would never sleep again.